Brothers and sisters, we are gathered here today to bid adieu to the 2019-2020 Phantom season. We say goodbye to the players, the coaches, the office staff, the fans, and Season 2 of the Dump and Chase podcast. Over the past 6 months, we laughed, we cried, we made bad jokes, and we looked the other way when you would only listen to the first 2 minutes of each episode and somehow decide that in that time it wasn't worth the listen. We did not appreciate the lack of effort, but we appreciated the view count we got anyways. We look back at a disappointing season and look ahead to an uncertain future, so we ask that you sit down with us one more time and talk hockey. Now, usually at the end of these things it is customary to offer a relevant Bible verse, so I will read to you from the New Life Version, Matthew chapter 15, verse 2. Why do your followers not obey the teaching that was given to them by our fathers? They do not wash their hands before they eat. Amen.
Shut up and sit down.
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 26, also known as the Season 2 finale of the Dump and Chase podcast. On March 18th, the news we dreaded, but wholly expected, was made official. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the 2019-2020 USHL season was canceled. So, for the final time this season, my name is Sam Olmstead, and with me as always is my co-host and hockey life partner, Justin Irwin. Justin, I never thought I would say this, but I am really starting to miss the glare coming off the top of your head.
Yeah, well, I mean, all this social isolation means I can kind of grow my hair back a little bit. Razor blades are in short supply. Things are getting desperate.
So with everything going on in the world, you're hearing a lot of stories about how people are riding out the quarantine, what people are doing to stay sane in the meantime. Since we have this platform, I thought we could add our stories as well. For anyone who doesn't know, whenever someone asks me what my job is, I tell them that I am a part-time merchandiser and a full-time stay-at-home dad. Every week I go to several stores in my hometown and stock books, magazines, candy, etc. With the shelter-in-place order now in effect in Ohio, since I service stores that are considered essential, my job is considered essential. It's not an ideal situation. I mean, it's stressful to say the least. Not that I compare what I do to health workers, healthcare workers and, others that have to be in close contact with known infected people. But those of you who know me also know that I look to find comedy in, any bad situation. You remember the last couple weeks, all of the idiots, and yes, they're idiots. Buying up all the toilet paper and hand sanitizer and Lysol wipes in bulk. Well, this week apparently they realized they didn't need 300 rolls of toilet paper and more hand sanitizer than in elementary school at the beginning of the school year. They also must have looked at their financial situation. People have been showing up to the stores in droves trying to either return their stockpiles and get their money back, or just making these hilarious claims about how they were charged for 10 megapacks of Charmin when they only purchased 2. And waited a whole week to come back and get refunded. So if you were one of those people, thank you for the laughs that you gave me this week. Justin, how about you? Any long walks in the park, sitting on a bench, writing some poetry? What have you been up to?
No. Social isolation is pretty much the description of my hockey off season, so... Yeah, I am a system engineer in satellite communications. Yeah, I'm considered essential. I do satellite internet. A lot of our customers are emergency management. Oil and gas is still up and running despite the gas prices. Yeah, fortunately I work in a small office. We can kind of keep our distance. We're doing okay, but yeah, I'm driving to Akron every day, so.
Well, if there was anything floating in the air, you're driving through Akron, you probably got your windows rolled up and doors locked anyways, so again, probably not much different than any other day.
Yeah, Yeah, nobody's gonna bother to carjack me as soon as I pull up to a red light or a stop. I just start coughing and rubbing the steering wheel, and I'm pretty sure I'm safe. I worry more about myself and Warren. They don't care.
Okay, so with all of that out of the way, how about we talk some hockey? So, early end of the season, and looking back on it, to sum up the Phantom season in one word for me would be inconsistent. In a nutshell, there were a lot of 50-50 weekends, just one game to the next. You had days where the team looked like they couldn't be stopped, to games where it looked like they couldn't even get started. On our part, it was many nights of frustration from a lineup that looked at the beginning of the season on paper like it could just be this absolute offensive juggernaut. Yeah, just the expectations at the beginning of the season, maybe with the exception of a handful of players, just the way the season ended up just didn't even come close to matching expectations.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that is something that we have discussed all season. It just seemed like you had weekends where it was just a totally different team from one night to the next, and then you had a couple of streaks where they were just completely lifeless. You'll have seasons like that every once in a while. Still a lot of great talent on the team, so we'll have to see when things come back, who comes back, and we could have a pretty decent team next season. So.
Well, that was another part of it. As far as those streaks, the winning ones were far and few between. The losing ones weren't any better. If you look at the season as a whole, if you look at the schedule as far as just like straight wins and losses, again, it just kind of summed up what was a frustrating season. The Phantoms' longest winning streak this season was 3 games, and only 5 times this season did they win 2 games in a row. Then you look at the losing side. Of course, there was December, which was just a rough month. 7 games, they lost all of them. One of them in overtime. So the whole month of December, 14 possible points, only 1 point in that month. They almost finished the season on a 6-game losing streak. They won that, what ended up being the last game of the season, against Cedar Rapids, right there at the end of what would become the end of the season, a 5-game losing streak. They also had a couple 3-game losing streaks. And when it was all said and done, while there was optimism for a playoff berth, this was more due to just a very weak bottom 4 teams in the Eastern Conference. Madison was a train wreck all season, except when they played us. And Cedar Rapids were losing players left and right to injury and illness.
So yeah, we finished just a couple of games below 500. Obviously not where we wanted to be at any point in the season, but going forward, I thought things on the schedule, going forward, we had a couple of games against Dubuque. Once we got over that, I thought we could probably get back to 500, if not, better. Maybe start making the push for the playoffs, but obviously we'll never know. So, we could file this season under just strange, and this will be one of those things that we'll tell people a few years down the line, oh hey, yeah, you remember that season? Yeah, that was weird.
But for all of that, there was some good news this season. For one, a noticeable difference in the stands. From the start of the season, it was easy to see there were a lot more butts in the seats than we have seen the past few seasons. Justin, I think you have probably like the actual numbers like this season compared to last.
Yeah, season before we did 1,196, and that had been, a steady decline for a few seasons. This year, 1,533, 28% increase. So that's really incredible.
One question I know we will get asked, even before we did this podcast, it was every year we get asked this, is what's going to happen to the roster? And like last year and the year before that and the year before that, we will say that it is way too soon to figure that out. In a normal offseason, there is no predicting a future roster. With the cancellations and delays from the ongoing pandemic, will just make it that much more difficult. I mean, as far as the draft right now, nothing really concrete has been said if the draft is going to end up being delayed. I mean, we have seen a couple teams now already signing their tenders for next season. So it seems like that's going along as it should. So maybe the draft happens at its normal time. I mean, what we can tell you right now, like Jan Kern, Matt Cassidy, Josh DeLuca, Jason Dobey, they're all 99 birth years. They're all overagers. So yeah, with this season being over, they have all aged out. So they will all be moving on. This year's the lineup we had at the end of the season, there were 13 2000 birth years on the roster. All but 4 of them have college commitments so far. Elite prospects have all of them moving on to college next season. Now, you can take that for what it's worth. They have been shown going to Penn State in the fall, but right now he's still a junior in high school, and I mean, he's told me personally that he will be back next year. So I mean, right now, just a lot up in the air. There's just no predicting what the roster will look like. At least as far as the returners are concerned.
Obviously, this pandemic has thrown all levels on all continents. I think, with the exception of, I think the Belarusian hockey league is still going on. So yeah, this affects the pipeline from youth through the NHL. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. I think this will be something that we'll still be kind of seeing the fallout well beyond this season, 2 or 3 seasons at least. I think this will have an impact. Obviously, it's not good, but it's something, we now have to deal with.
So as we look to the future for us, it'll be a lot like last offseason. Once the draft does happen, we'll be back to recap, various Phantoms, any notable picks the Phantoms pick up. Same with once we get into the fall, once the rosters are announced. In between that, we have a few ideas we're kicking around for special episodes. Maybe like a kind of best of the podcast clip show. Possibly a mockumentary we've been working on. Maybe we'll just be bored and stir crazy and just need to talk. I mean, at this point, who knows?
Yeah. Obviously, everybody is a little on edge. We're not immune to that, so we'd all rather be watching hockey, but you have to deal with these things day by day. So obviously, if anybody out there has any suggestions or just wants to drop us a line, we're always here.
Okay, so as we come down to the end of this episode, usually this is the point where we would do 2 questions. We're just going to skip that for now. Any question we could possibly have for what's going on right now is just absolute speculation. It really wouldn't serve anyone's interest. So what we're going to do, we have quite a few thank yous we want to make sure we get out to everyone. First and foremost, the front office of the Phantoms. Thanks to doing this show, we have been able to get a much deeper look into the behind the scenes of the team. We have got to see how hard these people work week in and week out for the team, for the fans. And when a couple of fans decide to do a podcast and sometimes say unflattering things about the organization, most teams would turn up their noses to such a concept. But the Phantoms have been very supportive of us, and definitely for all of that, we want to say thank you for that.
Yeah, and not only is it rare that, you not get pushback on things like that, there's been a couple of things where we've gotten some agreement. So it's good to know that, they're all fans like we are, and obviously, we keep them in our thoughts.
Okay, so next we have the players. Now, this season did not end up being the season we hoped for, but more often than not, it was a lot of fun to watch you all play. This was a team full of very high-character young men. Your impacts on the ice as well as off the ice in the community have definitely created memories for all of us that'll last a lifetime. Most of you will be moving on. For us fans, unfortunately, this is what we sign up for. We're used to that, but it never makes it easier. The USHL is just one rung on the ladder, but for us, it's always a pleasure, for us to witness this stage in your development. We wish you nothing but the best as you move on in your hockey career, and definitely thank you for spending some time with us, in Youngstown.
All right, yeah. So for all the players moving on, just wherever you land, keep playing the game. Keep playing, as hard as you can, as long as you can.
Now, we were lucky over the past year to have a great set of people, spend a few minutes talking to us on the podcast. It started at the end of last season with Andrew Goldman, who was not only our first interview, but our first returning interview. A couple of months ago, we got to talk with the late Ted Rendinell. While there still is a sadness to his recent passing, we're glad that we had a platform to give to him to be able to tell his story one last time. And of course, we were able to talk with the voice of the Phantoms, Matt Lipsack. For me, honestly, that was probably one of my top 3 moments of doing this show. So for all of the downtime you have right now, I encourage you to go back and listen to those interviews. Just so much great information that came out of them. So Andrew, Ted, Matt, thank you for giving people a chance to listen to the podcast and, maybe not hear our voices for a few minutes.
Yeah, that's the best part, is breaking up the monotony. Obviously, we got, some very excellent views into, the technical aspects, some of the things that, you would never really even think about until you sit down and talk to these people. And, it's amazing what goes into, something of this level.
So, of course, we can't forget what we like to call the 222 crew. That is our little block of rows of fellow season ticket holders that we spend all of these home games with. Bob, Sherry, Bridget, and even though they don't technically sit in Section 222, they were adopted into our crew. Of course, the Glenn family, who helped us out a lot early in the season with content and kind of letting us poke fun at them a little bit. They did enjoy it. Don't worry about it. Mike, Carrie, Kyrie, Raylan, who of course Raylan is the one who did the artwork you can see on the screen right now. Not only do these people listen to us blab on and on during the game, they also faithfully tune in every week to the podcast. And for that, we thank you. But, well, Bridget told me she doesn't listen because she has to listen to you talk as enough as it is, so.
So yeah, one last time, thank you guys. You're a lot of the reason why we enjoy showing up to the games. Yeah, we're starting to spill over into Section 221. I hope we see all these people back next season. So, just keep on keeping on, people.
And last but not least, you, the fans. Fans of the Phantoms, fans of the podcast, whoever you are. As much as we do this for our own enjoyment, we do it for all of you as well. Without you, there is no us. So thank you for going along with us this season, and hopefully, many more seasons to come.
I think, if anything, the way this season kind of ended puts a lot in perspective. I'm pretty sure we'll all just be thankful the next time we get to see these guys on the ice. So until then, just take it one day at a time, and but try to stay healthy.
Okay, so we've reached the end of this episode, the end of this season of the podcast. The Dump and Chase podcast is brought to you by hockeyfan.com. You can find our social media links in the description. We'll be posting throughout all of this downtime, so you can always interact with us there. These are strange times we are in right now, but like Justin said, just one day at a time, we'll get through it. We'll get through it together. So for Justin Irwin, I'm Sam Olmstead. Thank you again for tuning in. Take care of yourselves, and in doing so, take care of the ones around you.
Yeah, you are your brother's keeper. Everybody stay healthy, stay at home, stay away from each other, and above all, wash your dang hands.
Alrighty, goodbye everyone. Say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.